Hello, this is John Fleming from the podcast Draft Day, which, if you are watching this video, you are on the channel of the podcast Draft Day. So hopefully that's not too big of a surprise. I'm trying something a little bit different here today. I am playing NBA 2K25. I am at the beginning of the 1983-84 season, and I am controlling the Houston Rockets. I will not be controlling the Houston Rockets for long, though. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to simulate the 83-84 season, after which there will be an expansion team added to the NBA. That expansion team will be the St. Louis Spirits. It'll be a rebrand of the American Basketball Association team from the 1970s, playing in a town that is near and dear to my heart, St. Louis, Missouri. And I'll just be trying to build them up, trying to see how great of a team that we can get. Most of the settings are pretty much the defaults on this game. One thing that I am going to change, though, is I am going to set up the difficulty for... Where's this at? Forgot to do this before, and I have erred dramatically. I'm going to set the trade negotiation difficulty to 99 because otherwise, or 100 actually, because otherwise it can be like deceptively easy to like just trade any player for like an unprotected first round pick as long as it's a couple years in advance. So I've had seasons on here where my team would win like 75 games and then have 20 first round picks, which is arguably not realistic. So the reason I picked the Rockets is just because I have to pick a team, and this was the team that had the worst record in the NBA in this season. For now, though, I'm just going to automatically adjust the rotations whenever there's an injury, and I'm going to decline all trades. Just keep the Rockets kind of as they were. Just kind of get through the season as quickly as I can. And we'll go through like what happened as far as the roster, as far as the events of the season, which should be fun because it's going to be kind of an alternate history of, the last 40 years of the NBA, which, is an intriguing premise, and is especially intriguing when we have the, St. Louis Spirits taking charge. I had briefly considered adding two teams, but I kind of just want to keep different teams available for future expansion. I think that there is a logic to St. Louis getting an expansion team here, just because if you look at the size of markets in 1983-84 by like census data and kind of estimating for like the change throughout the 80s, it's the second largest market without an NBA team. The largest is Miami, which of course will be getting an NBA team, towards the end of the decade. So St. Louis does make sense. And, the drawback is that at this point in time, St. Louis has MLB, NFL, and NHL teams. So let's just look at who won the awards while we're at it. We have Magic Johnson, MVP. Can't say I'm too terribly surprised. He's a quite good basketball player. Ralph Sampson won Rookie of the Year for the team that I'm ostensibly controlling, the Houston Rockets. Kevin McHale won Sixth Player of the Year. Mark Eaton won Defensive Player of the Year. Cliff Levingston got Most Improved. Brad Nelson, who is not real, got Coach of the Year. You can just imagine this being Pat Riley, I guess. And Jaden Woods, who you can imagine being Red Auerbach, won NBA Executive of the Year. All NBA first team, you have Magic Johnson and Ricky Green. So Ricky Green's a bit of a surprise, but for whatever reason, he ends up being really good in this game. Larry Bird and Alex English are the forwards, and Moses Malone is the center. All NBA second team, we have Isaiah Thomas and Gus Williams. Julius Erving and Mark Aguirre are the forwards, and Jeff Ruland is the center. All defensive first team, guards are Sidney Moncrief and Magic Johnson. Forwards are Larry Nance and Herb Williams. Mark Eaton is at the center. All defensive second team, T.R. Dunn and Ricky Green. Buck Williams and Julius Erving, and then Moses Malone as the five. All rookie team, not a surprise, Ralph Sampson headlining it, this being the positionless team. Ennis Watley, Darrell Walker, Roy Hinson, and Clyde Drexler getting the first team nods. Second team, we have Dale Ellis, Derek Harper, Byron Scott, Doc Rivers, and Jeff Malone. So that is going to be what we're at there. The Houston Rockets did not make the postseason. You can kind of look at the playoff tree there. Let's see what the standings looked like. I admittedly was not paying a lot of attention to the record. Actually started out okay. Actually ended up being the team that just missed the playoffs. It looks like the San Diego Clippers ended up getting the tiebreaker over the Rockets. In the West, 22-60 was the worst team. That was the Warriors, and then the Washington Bullets. So it's going to be the Warriors and the Bullets who are going to get the coin flip, as it was at the time, to determine who has the number one overall pick. But as the expansion team, we should get the first post-lottery pick, which at this point in time means getting the second overall pick, which is a pretty nice thing to have. So let's go ahead and just simulate the playoffs and then get into the next version. Oh, the Lakers got upset by the Denver Nuggets, and the Celtics won the championship. So not a huge surprise as far as who won the championship. Larry Bird got MVP. Those seem like the stats of an MVP. And 96.7% free throw percentage seems pretty solid there. So, yeah, the Celtics beat the Jazz, who, kind of tore through the playoffs. They only lost one game each series, and then, I guess the Ricky Green effect is real. But we're going to move along to the 1984 offseason screen. Player retirements. We have Billy Pultz, Fred Brown, George Johnson, and ML Carr. Okay. No huge retirements, but it's something. Terrence Brooks retiring as head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Historic changes. So we have a rule change. A player fouled in transition with a clear path to the basket will receive 2 free throws, retain possession of the ball. That is a change that happened. Interesting thing here is that they don't have the expansion teams listed, or the expansion team listed, but we'll see if we're able to address that on the next screen. Otherwise, I'll be starting this video over, and that's a bummer. But in the meantime, team branding, relocate and completely rebrand the San Diego Clippers to the Los Angeles Clippers. And then the Jazz have a uniform change, as do the Indiana Pacers. All right, league meetings. Oh, there we go. It's approved. League expansion. Add 1 new team to the league. So that is what we want to do. Clear path. Reinstate the 5-second back to the basket violation is rejected. The way that I'm going to put my thumb on the scale, to the extent that I do, is I'm just going to go with what the real life NBA rule changes are up until 2024, and then unless it is like a really narrowly rejected or narrowly approved, and it's not actually going to affect like the play of the league, like within like the simulation. Like for instance, a lot of times it'll be proposed of like, oh, we're going to stop high schoolers from entering the NBA draft, or there's going to be a rule saying you have to be 4 years out to get into the draft. And I'm not going to do that because then I'd have to kind of reconfigure the draft classes, and that seems like a lot of work. But yeah, opposing teams will enter the bonus after 16 fouls have been committed and a single quarter is rejected. And sort of this version of the Elam ending for the All-Star game has been rejected. I wouldn't be opposed to that, but also I'm probably not going to actually play the All-Star games in here. League realignment. So I believe, at this point is the teams listed as the St. Louis Sound. The reason for that is because there's a pre-made team called the St. Louis Sound, and because for some reason there are a lot of like errors within the system whenever you try to like go through rebrandings before the like first season starts. So St. Louis Sound, though, makes sense as a team in the Central Division. I'm not sure if maybe the league would want to try to get, the Kansas City Kings and the Seattle Sonics, or the Kansas City Kings and the St. Louis NBA team in the same division. But the Sonics one really is standing out here. I'm going to go ahead and configure them to switch with the Jazz. And then it's a purely Western time zone other than Phoenix with their whole kind of thing. And then the Midwest division is a couple Mountain time zone teams and a bunch of Centrals. Central division is mostly Central time zone with, I guess it's half and half of Central versus Eastern time zone. And then in the Atlantic division, it's a much more kind of Northeast thing. Let's go ahead and switch the Cleveland Cavaliers with the Atlanta Hawks. I think that makes sense just because, more ubiquitously Midwest is Cleveland. So the draft lottery is also one of those things that tends to have errors. So I'm going to go ahead and just go to staff signing. And then once that simulates, go to the draft lottery. So it looks like the Washington Bullets won the first overall pick. And in the 1984 draft in real life, Hakeem Olajuwon, or as he was known at the time, Akeem Olajuwon, was the number one pick. But Jeff Ruland had a really good season at center for the Bullets this season, even though the team wasn't very good. So I would guess that they're probably not going to go the center route. A young man named Michael Jordan would make sense to go to the Washington franchise many years earlier. But we'll see, because, regardless of what happens, at least one of Olajuwon or Jordan is going to be available to St. Louis, which is going to be a really nice thing to have. And it looks like it was actually the Clippers who were competing for the first overall pick because they had Golden State's pick, but nothing too jarring there. So at this point, though, the head coach, I'm still controlling the Rockets, so I'm going to go ahead and make a switch there. We'll go to options, team selections, switch out the Rockets, move to the Sound. One thing I like about this league configuration is it's exactly 24 teams. It's exactly 6 teams per division. I think that it makes sense. But anyway, this is their version of me as GM, Clint Phillips. Patrick Walls as the governor, so the owner, basically. But now I got to hire a bunch of people. So let's see who's available to become head coach. For anyone who's played NBA 2K games, the name Michael Stauffer might be familiar to you. He's a very baby-faced individual who is just like basically a perfect coach and is just available and has all these crazy like purple and gold badges, which is the high tier version of it. Looking at the other guys who are available, Richard Terry's pretty good too, but I think Stauffer is like pretty clearly the best coach out there. And, since I set the trade thing higher, I'm just trying to win here. So I cannot make another offer to a person for this staff position today. That is, it says that I guess it says that I made offers, I guess because I hadn't switched. Huh. Yeah, let's just go ahead and sim. I'll take whatever the computer gives me. So we have a tentative agreement with Jamal Anderson, who's got pretty good amount of badges and stuff. Not too bad. Signed an assistant GM, CFO, team doctor. Doesn't have very good ratings, but we'll see how this goes. And then a head scout. Sim through. Head coach has been rejected, so now I'm going to make the play for Michael Stauffer. Let's see if we got this guy. He is mulling. He is still mulling. I'm day 5 of 7. He is signed. All right, so Michael Stauffer is going to be the head coach of the St. Louis Spirits. I promise I'm going to make this change. And going forward, though, let's just go ahead and start through. NBA Draft Combine. I'm not really too concerned with what shows up here. I'll eventually look at these numbers, but not for right now. Pre-draft workouts, I'm going to work out the top kind of prospects, the guys who are expected to be high picks, because even though, I'll eventually be pursuing guys, with like my second round pick, I don't want to take any crazy risks. So we'll scout the top 7 guys on the Sporting News ranking, and then we'll do so this is the Sporting News big board ranking, and then there's the Sporting News draft projection. So let's see if there's any other guys who are, so Kevin Willis, Otis Thorpe. Yeah, let's go ahead and add Jared Jenkins to that mix. We'll see what kind of scouting we have. So this is the protect players segment. So we're having an expansion draft, and obviously as the team that is expanding, don't have to worry about that. When it comes to my strategy for the expansion draft, I don't expect there to be any I'm not getting great players out of this. I'm really just trying to get guys who are decent and can contribute, but ideally kind of cheap. Ideally go with a lot of 2-year contract kind of guys. So here's the list of players. So Lester Connor is the best player available. A 3-year deal, which is not my favorite, but has good stats, has good ratings. It's cheaper than Edgar Jones. Yeah, is like materially better than these other guys. He's also only 24. I'm gonna go ahead and take him because even if I end up getting Michael Jordan, I would probably consider moving Lester to point guard, or I could trade him. Honestly, I think he would have more value than a lot of these other guys. I'm not sure who exactly is going to be removed here, but I went ahead and took him. A name that's intriguing to me is John Sunvold. Part of it is because he went to Mizzou, so MIZ. He had his rookie season last season, put up okay numbers, probably pretty limited, but is a guy who could be an electric sort of player. Obviously, this kind of does juxtapose where I said, oh, we're going to have we can move our top player to the one if we need to, and then this would be redundant. But let's be honest, we're just trying to get the best players available to some degree. So let's see who's available now. So I think I want to get a center in all likelihood. It's just kind of the way that the league operates. Mark West is a 74. Juwan Oldham's also a 74. And that's with a -1 because Mark West is younger. That's a 3-year contract versus a 2. I'd rather pay a little bit more for Juwan Oldham. So let's go ahead and take him. Okay, so next pick. Power forward and small forward are the positions that are missing. I don't see any small forwards on here. Let's see. So there are some small forwards there. There's way more power forwards. See if any of these guys are particularly appealing. Yeah, Alvin Scott's cheaper. It's Larry Spriggs out of Howard. Didn't play very much last year. Alvin Scott is a much more of a veteran. So I'm going to go ahead and take Alvin Scott. And then, even if I don't get my top choice of power forward, it looks like there are quite a few guys, depending on how the protections work. So I feel like Kurt Rambis is the most famous of these guys. 200,000 is definitely cheaper than some of these other fellas. 74. It's younger. I'm not paying 1.15 million for Mitch Kupchak. Major Jones has the advantage of being cheaper, which might come up when it comes to like backups. But I think for now I'm going to go with Rambis. I don't want to be absolutely dreadful my first season. I'm not under illusions that I'm going to win the championship my first year, but it's something. I'll go ahead and take Mike Evans because he's making league minimum. The 74 overall is pretty solid. All right, next up, a lot of big men for the most part. Mike O'Koren, Grunfeld. Yeah, let's go with Carlos Clark, a shooting guard, making league minimum for 2 years. 72,000, yeah, it's really cheap. So let's go. Do I want to take Mike O'Koren right now? He's, a fairly recent, number 6 overall pick. Yeah, why not? Let's take him. Yeah, I'm fairly confident about my ability to get some good big men. Mark West is pretty cheap. 3 years though, but all the other guys who are like comparably cheaper 3-year guys, I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and take Mark West at center. Look at power forward now. I'm gonna go ahead and take let's say Pete Verhoeven. He's a little bit younger, a little more expensive, hoping that he just like holds up and is like a competent player. Now at this point, I'm probably just going for guys who are like league minimum types. Bob Hansen at 72,000. Major Jones is a better player. I'll take Major Jones. I'll go back to shooting guard, go to Bob Hansen from the Jazz. Still have a couple picks left here. There's a guy making 100,000 in Granville Waiters. I making 110,000 in Michael Wilson. Granville Waiters is just the better player, so I'll go ahead and draft him. For this pick, I'm going to go ahead and take Jeff Cook. I'm hoping that some of these guys are at least like tradable type players. So here's the roster as it currently stands. It's, yeah, obviously could use some more strength, but has some consistency, has some decent players, and hopefully we'll be able to do some kind of configurations. Draft Washington Bullets are on the clock. I wonder, see how the scouting looks for these guys. So they just both say B plus with Bill Russell comp and just a simply says Hall of Fame comp. I mean, honestly, I would rather have Jordan just knowing what Michael Jordan becomes, but if I have to build around Elijah, that's not the worst thing in the world. I think I'd be willing to just kind of see what happens here rather than trying to trade assets to move up a spot. But let's take Michael Jordan. So can't say I'm surprised there. Sounder being offered a pick if this delay is any indication. I'll at least see what the offers are, though I can't say I'm really seriously considering any of these. And maybe if there's somebody who has like the 3 or 4 who wants to give me something serious to move up, maybe I'd consider it. I mean, if Clark Kellogg, I believe, was a second team All NBA, but not counting on that going forward. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and draft Mr. Olajuwon. We'll change his name to Hakeem at some point, but yeah, Olajuwon is the guy, and he is having a true superstar in the middle in this era is kind of what you want. Players like Jordan you can't pass up on because they're just so good. Clippers take John Stockton. Will the Suns take Charles Barkley? They sure do. So Alvin Robertson's probably the next best guy available, and the Mavericks take him. I'm going to go ahead and just simulate to the next user pick. So at this point, I'm pretty much just trying to take best available players. Let's see what these trades are. So on one hand, like for instance, the Celtics are offering me 2 second-round picks. One, because the Celtics will probably be lower second-round picks, and two, even if they were higher second-round picks by 1987, especially 1988, I'm hoping to be in a position where a second-round pick's not making like an immediate impact for the team. And in this case, that's exactly what's going to happen. Is this is going to be a player who probably is in the rotation right away. So I'm going to do the Sporting News rank. So it looks like the top player available is Douglas Wood, who's a shooting guard. We have Carson Shepard. Not really familiar with any of these guys, to be perfectly honest. I'm sure at least some of them actually exist, but not too familiar with these names. So let's see what we know about Douglas Wood. So it hasn't really been scouted, so not a whole lot of information there. At New Mexico, had 19.7 points, 3.7 boards, 4.2 assists. Not a great 3-point shooting percentage, but it is what it is. Let's see where Carson Shepard's at statistically. He's at Creighton. Ugh. Yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and take Douglas Wood and sim to the end of the draft, and we'll just see how this works out. So, yeah, Michael Jordan's an 85 overall, but we have an 84 overall, so I'm not going to complain there. And then we have a 68 overall as our shooting guard that we took in the second round, which is not the best player who's available, but it is going to be a player who can be helpful for us. So go ahead and accept both contracts. Team player option, nothing there. Qualifying offers, nothing there. Let's use available as a free agent. So Jim Paxson's available. We have Andrew Toney, Joe Barry Carroll, Bob Lanier, Dan Roundfield, David Thompson. So some good players available. I wouldn't say anything like true stars, but one name that does kind of tickle my fancy a little bit is Andrew Toney because he's still fairly young. He just averaged 20 plus points for the Sixers. And now that Michael Jordan's not coming to town and there's not really like a comparable shooting guard for at least a few years, getting a guy like Andrew Toney in the mix might not be the worst thing. Let's see who's available though. So we have Lester Connor, who we drafted in the expansion draft #1, but he might be worth trying to move, as might Joanne Oldham, just because of subsequent moves slash potential future moves. So I'm going to try to see what offers are available for Lester Connor. So we get a first round pick, top 3 protected in 86, then an 85 second. If I could get a draft pick for next year, that would be real. Ooh, they're offering Lester Connor and Jeff Cook, who at this point, Cook is really not particularly useful for me. But they're offering me a top 5 protected first round pick in 86 and 88 first round pick unprotected. And the Spurs are offering me, yeah, I think this guy's going to get traded. Warriors, I guess I like slightly less. Mark Eaton, the defensive player of the year, would be a fun player to have, but obviously with Hakeem, don't really need a second center. And there are so many other spots to fill. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to trade Jeff Cook and Lester Connor for these 2 first round picks from the Rockets. Then we have a chance to get Andrew Toney. Yeah, let's do that. I mean, with the Jim Paxson thing, that could just kind of spiral. You see these guys are, 3, actually not too terrible as far as the dollar amount, but, with the player option, that is a little bit risky. Let's try a 4. Should we try a 4-year deal? Yeah, I think I'm fine with that as a, 26-year-old. We'll try 900,000, then kind of an escalating contract. Andrew Toney agrees. Awesome. So we're going to have a legitimately decent shooting guard here. Sim through, make sure that we have him locked down. We do. So at this point, Andrew Toney's looking at like the 2. And then we'll have John Sunvold, Kurt Rambis. A better small forward would be interesting. I saw that David Thompson was available. So can we afford him? Appears we can. So let's see what these offers are looking like so far. 3 years, 2.82. Let's see who's available as a power forward. Yeah, let's go ahead and make the offer for David Thompson just because he's the best player available. I'm going to just go for a 2-year contract. I'm going to be a little bit stingier here. Try 900,000 2-year deal. If we don't get it, we don't get it. David Thompson signed with the Pacers. Like I said, not sweating it too much. I'm thinking that Terry Tyler might be the best option for us here. We'll go 2 years. 400,000 is fine. Let's make it a flat rate though. So he's going to get 400,000 the second year too, and we got him. So at this point, how many players do we have signed? That would be 16. So we will have to make some sort of move to part with somebody. Among these shooting guards, you have 2 guys making league minimum type money. Let's see what Bob Hansen can get me. A second round pick, a couple seconds. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I'm probably looking at here. I'm not expecting someone's going to offer me some sort of awesome deal for this guy. Pacers second round pick. Let's try this Warriors second round pick. They had a pretty rough record last year, and this would give us a chance to possibly have what amounts to a late first. So it does look like it's Houston's pick, which despite decent results last year, I still don't think of them as being a huge threat to this team. I have to say, I'm thinking that probably good as far as what players I want to go into the season with. I think that this is a competent roster. I certainly don't think this is a great team, but you get somebody who get some real talents out there. I am kind of contemplating Jawan Oldham though, because he's definitely not going to start. Mark West might just be a better fit there. Let's see what I can get for Oldham. I know I made the whole thing about trading picks and just like not getting automatically first round picks for guys, but you look at these picks that are being offered. It's a lot of like second round pick type stuff. This is an interesting one because this would be a pick from the Jazz, who have been. I mean, they made the finals last year. Not sure I necessarily want to trade a second round pick along with it though to make that work. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and make this trade with the Spurs. Get a couple second round picks. Kind of less overall fear. Let's go to player progression. Yeah, so Andrew Toney, I guess, sore right knee. It says he's out for the season. I'm hoping that by the season they mean for like the summer league, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, John Sunvold improved. Mark West improved. The team in general, guys got better. Major Jones slipped by one, which is not too shocking. Let's just build this automatically. I can't say I'm too worried about the summer league. Those sound have been eliminated. Keep asking me about Sidney Lowe, which I can't say I'm too terribly worried about. Cut on the head season, surely. Okay, I was going to say, surely that's a summer league thing. Otherwise, this team is looking a little bit rough. All-Star game to be in Boston, so that's fine. Maybe we'll have an All-Star. I mean, a guy like Olajuwon is really strong. I'm going to upload the 1985 draft class. Looking for the first one down here that says 85. So there is this one from Huff's Hoops, which they make good quality draft classes. The issue is that they often don't have that many actual prospects in the game. So it'd be like a solid 40 guys and then a bunch of 40 overall types. I'm hoping that there will be an 85 somewhere around here. Accurate 1985, truly to go. Yeah, I've used his before. This should be okay. Let's move on through. As it stands right now, power ranking is 24. We are the 24th team. So not a lot of expectations of this being a good team, but yeah, Andrew Toney is back. Alvin Scott, Major Jones, okay. So this about checks out. I'm trying to think of I'm not sure that Pete Verhoeven needs to be in the class. Let's try a bench depth of 10, so a 10-man rotation. Small forward's a little bit thin, but that's kind of the only one. Yeah, so looking at this, yeah, I think this works out. Toney will get kind of he'll shoulder the load a little bit, but it's not like Olajuwon's going to be out of commission. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and first we can just kind of look at the scouting screen just to show the prospect scouting list. Patrick Ewing is the headliner of this draft class. You have Xavier McDaniel, Karl Malone, who arguably had the best career of guys in this class. Wayman Tisdale, Chris Mullin, Charles Oakley, Arvydas Sabonis, Joe Dumars. So this is a pretty deep class. I don't know for sure this is going to be a terrible team, but if this ends up being like a just miss the playoffs kind of team, I think in the top 8 picks, which would be the ones in the lottery because the lottery rule changes, I think you would get a pretty good contributor right away. But we'll have to wait and see how that works. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to change the 2K share team designs. So a cool thing about 2K is you can find these rosters available on that are just like user created. So I'm going to go ahead and just search Spirits and see what comes up. I found one the other day that the spelling of the team name was a little bit off, but like the logo and stuff looked pretty authentic. There's a few of these ones that, like this one I have covered here, which like, honestly, there used to be a roller hockey team in St. Louis that was called, what was that team called? The Vipers. The thing was Vipers. And that kind of looks like their logo. but that's not necessarily what I'm going for. Okay, so let's look at this design. I like the font there. Not really crazy about the huge like typeface part of the arena, though we're gonna customize that, so it's really honestly not that big of a deal. Let's check this one out. Yeah, something's just a little bit off about it. I really am a sucker for this logo from way back when. Let's check this one out. It looks like it's an Enterprise Center logo on the court, which is the arena that presumably an NBA team would currently play in, though at this particular point in time would not happen. This is a pretty generic court. Not opposed to it though. Like it is a like that is kind of just what you want a court to look like as far as like a clean look. Let's see what other ones are available though. I do kind of like this one. I'm not crazy about the logo in the middle, but that can be replaced. I love the logo of the Spirit of St. Louis. It's a very 70s look, but I think it'll work out nicely. I know the team says Louis Spirits, but that will change, so don't worry about that. We'll save some team assets. This, I'm sure, is a very riveting viewing experience right here. Okay, so let's go back to the team brand. Choose city. I'm sure we're still in St. Louis. We are. Team branding. Yeah, St. Louis Spirits. We'll go ahead and put the period after the ST. I don't know why, but for some reason that just kind of annoys me. So the ABA team was actually fully called the Spirits of St. Louis, hence why the logo looks like it does. But in this particular case, I kind of just like St. Louis Spirits. Yeah, team colors look right. Team logo. We'll complete that. A design arena. So what I want to try to do is have this arena look more or less like the St. Louis arena that existed in St. Louis, where like the Blues played at this point in time. And then once we get to the 94-95 season, where the stadium that's currently known as the Enterprise Center opens, we'll have that. So seating capacity is around like 17, 18,000. Sorry, I was coughing there, so I muted slash accidentally pressed the wrong thing. Hopefully, it doesn't show up on the audio, but if it does, my bad. I like the idea of an arena that has. I think this is probably the closest one. I never actually went to St. Louis Arena. I was too young, but let's go ahead and change this from St. Louis Coliseum to St. Louis Arena. For those of you who are from the St. Louis area and are not familiar, St. Louis Arena, unlike the current arena, which is like right in the heart of downtown, this arena is located pretty close to like Forest Park. So it's like in the city of St. Louis, but definitely not downtown. It's just like fascinating to think about, just like how much different things were at that point. So for the Jumbotron, I want to find like kind of as old looking of a Jumbotron as I can find. I want there to be a Jumbotron. Let's not go too crazy, but let's see. That's not too bad. Let's see what the graphics packages look like. That's probably the closest to what like an 80s graphic package would look like. So let's go with that. Scores table, I really don't have a strong preference to how this looks. Advertisements, I am kind of a sucker for the advertisements on here. So you can set up what shows on the scorers table. And I just want to go with images that like actually make sense for the era. So like this like modern ESPN logo, it doesn't really make sense. You know, the first logo on here that makes sense is like a potential sponsor from 1984, be like the McDonald's logo. So let's go with that. Use that image. That's fine. Coca-Cola was certainly around. Let's go to the next page of these. I don't know why, like for some reason, this like image of this like blurry image of Josh Giddey for some reason is a popular one. I'm gonna go ahead and go with Gatorade though. Obviously, it would be even more apropos if we'd gotten Michael Jordan, but it still works. A lot of modern things here. I don't think any other than Nike. I don't think any of these things were around. I mean, KFC was around, but not with that logo. Same for ESPN. We have to wrap up pretty quick here, just because I'm starting to cough a lot, kind of losing my voice here. This is probably very exciting to watch. Why can't I find a? We already did a Coca Cola, but I like that look of that kind of logo. So let's just do that. Anyway, this one's out of Nike. Nike existed. We'll go ahead and keep that. Bucky's definitely did. I mean, I know that it didn't exist in Missouri because the first Bucky's in Missouri opened like I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and that's in Springfield, which is a solid like 3 to 3.5 hours away. Have been to it. Gotta say, not a huge fan. Not worth the hype to me. Let's see here. Taco Bell. Yeah, Taco Bell. That looks like an older Taco Bell logo. That's probably a little modern for this, but I don't really know any difference. So let's go with that. Seating. So the seats at the old arena, I actually don't know, but I know that at Enterprise Center they're like more purplish. So I'm gonna go with let's find a team that has purple, like kind of a dark purple as a color. The Jazz would make sense. So yeah, that's what the colors look like. Hopefully they're all filled, so it's not going to matter. Basket type. So one of these says NBA League Pass, which did not exist, and one of them says NBA Fit, which I'm not really sure what it is. Sound effects. Yeah, I don't really want sound effects, so we'll complete that. Set up our court here as well. Then once that's done, I'm not going to subject anybody to watching how the games work out during the regular season because they're just not going to be very interesting. The only thing I really want to change here is I'm going to get rid of where it says Coliseum. Let's just delete that whole thing. Center court logo, let's change that to, is that under my images? Under custom logos, there we go. So yeah, just the regular St. Louis Spirits logo. Could make it smaller to try to fit inside the circle, but I'd rather have a big one. So let's do that. Honestly, it looks pretty good. Do I want to keep standard floor? Probably. Yeah, let's just do that. Honestly, as long as the inside the 3 point line and outside stuff looks the same, I don't really care what the color is either. Complete that. Then we'll go to design uniform. Honestly, my main thing is just making sure there's not a sponsor on the logo, which there's not. Shorts retro, we definitely want to do for the era. Yeah, I'm good with that. Let's call it a day. I will see everybody later when my voice is better. Please like and subscribe, all that. But otherwise, I'll see you guys later, assuming this loads correctly, which now I'm worrying about. Okay, saving team assets. Okay, there we go. Okay.